Part 24. A Middle School Cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 231. Cheng, should you think about it for a moment? If this continues. Regarding the ranking of Inuyasha falling again, Yashida's solemn expression between his eyebrows and his nervous tone finally made Takahashi Makoto put down his brush. He expressed what he was most worried about, although regarding Rina's matter. Hey, my beloved cat, I know everything you want to say. Indeed, as a cartoonist, choosing to confront readers head-on seems to be an option that leads to death. Makoto Takahashi World. Paintbrush showed an expectant smile on his face, but this is also what I am looking forward to. Since I have chosen to protect Her Highness the Witch, I cannot do without the awareness of death. After all, my enemy now, is the entire human race in the world. These are just your delusions, right? Yashida sighed helplessly, knowing that Takahashi Makoto could no longer be persuaded. As an editor, one should not criticize the actual content of comics, but seeing the current rankings of comics declining, Yashida is still a little worried. Although Yashida knows that 80% of the reason for the current decline in manga rankings is due to the impact of Rina's incident, the remaining 20% of the reason is definitely Takahashi Makoto's own responsibility. At a previous concert, a popular star suddenly announced that he was quitting the entertainment industry because of his lover. Makoto Takahashi, who responded to the call, was naturally resented by many resentful fans. Moreover, Makoto Takahashi is a manga artist, so, the rankings of the other two mangas also dropped, which is understandable. After all, there are many manga fans among Rina's fan base. Searched Kan on Google. Oh, Naruko-sama has appeared. Just when Yashida was still thinking wildly, Takahashi Makoto entered the Honkai painting mode again. Look at the smile on Takahashi Makoto's face, and you will know what does this mode refer to. Long time no see, Lord Naruko, I have been looking forward to your appearance for a long time. I hope you can help me to torture those envious, jealous, and hateful bastards to death. Drink. Ha 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 ha. Damn it, are Cheng already broken? Yashida looked at Makoto Takahashi with a dark look on his face. The expression on his face was very responsible, with worry mixed with sympathy. The object of worry is Makoto Takahashi, and the object of sympathy is the being called the reader. Speaking of which, Cheng, you seem to like the character Naruko very much. If it were another cartoonist, Yashida would never talk to them rashly while they were drawing, fearing that it would disrupt the idea of the manga collection, but the target was according to Makoto Takahashi. Yashida said there was no pressure at all. Because before, Takahashi Makoto had demonstrated the supernatural fighting power of 3 comics that were completed at the same time. Not to mention Yashida, even Landai's classmate who accidentally wandered in at that time was horrified and stunned for more than a month. It's not so much that I like it, it's better to say that I admire Naruko-sama. Makoto Takahashi put down the brush and turned to look at Yashida, who looked surprised, with a smile on his face. My dependent cat, what's going on? What about you? You have a surprised expression on your face. Do you think you can't understand it? Well, it is indeed a bit surprising. Other cartoonists I have come into contact with, when constructing comics, the protagonist is usually shaped according to their own expectations, but you. Regarding Takahashi Makoto's answer, Yashida, it is indeed a bit surprising, because in Yashida's view, the setting of the half-demon is completely based on Takahashi Makoto himself. After all, if a monster-like cartoonist like Takahashi Makoto didn't maintain a human appearance and some daily human behaviors, Yashida would definitely regard Takahashi Makoto as a monster. Now, my beloved cat, you don't subconsciously think that I am a monster or a half-demon, right? Makoto Takahashi's voice suddenly intervened. Seeing Makoto Takahashi suddenly stop painting, and the expression on his face that wanted to conquer monsters, Yashida was forced to interrupt before he could finish his words. The corners of his mouth kept twitching, and Yoshida subconsciously moved back and adjusted his sitting posture so that he would not be able to escape immediately when Makoto Takahashi suddenly burst out. Likes come from similarities, dislikes come from similarities. The current Phoenix Academy Jujhen who has entered a state of madness and ghosts is basically a similar existence to Narakusama, so I like, this is of course. Makoto Takahashi looked at him. Yoshida looked curious and wanted to continue saying something, but he caught a glimpse of the comic manuscript on the table. After he lowered his head and pondered for a moment, an expectant smile appeared on his face. Well, regarding this issue, if you can answer the question, within the next 7 days, if you complete the task of safe survival, I can give you some psychological counseling, free of charge. I don't want that kind of thing. It was purely a subconscious complaint, but Yoshida, whose reaction ability had greatly improved, still noticed what Takahashi Makoto said before, looked at Takahashi Makoto carefully, and asked timidly, "Speak of safe survival. It means..." Hey, don't worry, it's just, well, it's just an interesting experiment. How could you not care? What on earth did you draw? Yoshida felt a strong sense of foreboding and looked at Makoto Takahashi with a bitter look on his face. Chen, are you trying to get along with the last time? Just like that, you delayed handing over the manga manuscript to me until the last day, right? Even if it's just to prevent me from having time to read the content carefully, it's not necessary to go to such an extent, right? Tisk. My cat, did I underestimate you before? Takahashi Makoto turned his head away unhappily. In that case, please go to the dark world to practice for a while before the comics are published. Yoshida didn't react at first, but after watching Takahashi Makoto slowly draw out the magic sword, his face turned pale instantly, and he compromised without any moral integrity, and left Takahashi Makoto's barrier at the fastest speed. Okay, whatever you like, this is okay. Tisk. Takahashi Makoto took back the magic sword unhappily, and didn't care about Yoshida's embarrassed departure. He turned around and threw himself on the seat and started drawing comics. On the day when Shonen Jump was released, Yoshida took a magazine and jumped directly to the Inuyasha part. As an editor, not being able to enjoy the right to read the comics in advance cannot be said to be Yoshida's incompetence. It's just that someone is holding a magic sword and staring at him, with an expression on his face that if you want to read the comics, you must be prepared to face death. Without that awareness, Yoshida would naturally not be stupid enough to read the comics in front of Makoto Takahashi, right? The reason why I can't read the comics in advance is indeed like this. Yoshida looked bitter after reading the content of Inuyasha. Aiken, that guy is really, do you think I will let him modify the content of the comics to this extent? You really underestimate me. But with such a development, if possible, you should modify it. Yoshida, you said it with all your heart before, in the blink of an eye. You are so shameless. Is it really okay? Well, I wish everyone a happy holiday today, and there is only one update today. A cat has to work overtime tomorrow, and there is a death tonight. I guess the second update is a bit weak, and there is no hope. Dear readers, please eat more rice dumplings. Sorry, that's about it. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 232. If we survey the female readers of Shonen Jump, more than 80% of them are loyal fans of Inuyasha. Although many female readers also buy single volumes, they never miss an issue of Shonen Jump. Even if there are only 1 or 2 comics they like in a magazine, they will do the same. Although it sounds a bit exaggerated to say this, the fact is that it is not wrong. Even though there are some fighting scenes in Inuyasha, unlike most male readers who like to watch passionate battles, the emotional drama in the entire manga is undoubtedly more attractive to female readers. Since the serialization of Inuyasha to the present, whether it is the relationship between the Lolita control Sesshomaru and Loli Rei, or the obsessive love affair between the villain Nariku and the resurrected Kikyo, or the colorful Mithrayabi at the emotional scene with the tomboy choral. The entire Inuyasha is actually a romance comic disguised as a fantasy adventure. As the protagonist, Inuyasha, his emotional choices naturally aroused great speculation among readers. There are those who support Kikyo, and there are those who support Kagome. Ahem, of course those who support taking off, most of them are male readers. Even so, no one can know the next development of the manga, but after all, many readers have already vaguely guessed that when Inuyasha and his team had a life and death battle with Naruto, Kagome and Kikyo would definitely give an answer to the raising rights of a certain dog half-demon, whether they would die or be injured, leave or stay. Although during this period, the affair between Takahashi Makoto and Rina has been aroused, especially now that the relationship between the two is constantly being smeared, and the rumors cannot stop, but according to the hypocritical nature of human beings, many people are adding fuel to the fire. Kaideka watched this incident while continuing to read the manga. So when the words about the white sweetheart appeared, many readers were speechless just as Yoshida expected. Perhaps for teenagers and girls who are still in the mature stage, this story does not have much impact, but for those adults who have stepped into the full body of social work, it has a different feeling. Although Sweetheart Bai is just a sidekick, she was created quite successfully. At least many people who have been wiped out of their spirit by society have a lot of emotions. Many people ask themselves, did they betray their ideals, or did their ideals betray themselves? If it were just like this, it would only arouse the feelings of all adults at most. However, the content of the next chapter gave many female readers, especially those who support the romance between Kikyo and Inuyasha, an unknown premonition. As a supporter of the Kikyo party, Miho firmly believes that Inuyasha will choose to be with Kikyo in the end. Although judging from the recent comics, Kikyo's appearance time is relatively small, which makes Kikyo's status somewhat secure, but Miho still firmly believes that Kikyo will appear in the content in the near future. Just as Miho thought, after the new issue of Shonen Jump is released, Kikyo will indeed appear. After Miho got the manga, she couldn't wait to read it. In Miho's heart, Kikyo and Inuyasha were originally a couple. Although they had entered into a love and kill mode due to Naruto's design, one died and the other was sealed. But with Kikyo's resurrection later, Miho was happy for a long time, but I have also been depressed for a long time about Inuyasha's uncertainty. Really, your favorite is Kikyo, why are you with that Kagome? Inuyasha, that idiot. While flipping through the comics, Miho pouted and complained when she saw Inuyasha and his party coming to Bailing Mountain, but when he turned to the next page, his eyes suddenly lit up. It is indeed like this, Lord Platycadon finally appears. Although Kikyo is no longer a human being, she still adheres to the essence of a Miko. Unlike a certain unscrupulous Kohaku, Kikyo as a shrine maiden is the guardian of mankind, helping humans to expel monsters and heal villagers suffering from diseases. Looking at these plots, Miho kept nodding. Kikyo is indeed kind-hearted. Miko-sama. However, the villagers who received help accidentally discovered the strangeness of Platycadon's body. After learning that Platycadon was a person who came back from the dead, their previous attitude towards Platycadon completely changed. The smiling face of the past is gone, and the respectful expression before is gone. The trembling body, the corners of the eyes and mouth are all filled with fear and disgust for the person named Platycadon. Why are these people like this? Miho became more and more angry as he watched, especially when he saw the villagers' attitude was completely opposite to before. After forcing Kikyo away, he almost threw the comic to the ground. After all, this plot was different from the previous one. The plot of The Sweetheart is the same, it's very depressing to watch. However, as a qualified lady, Miho still did not behave in such an exaggerated manner. She just started cursing a certain middle-class manga artist. At the beginning, Kikyo still held the illusion that humans would accept a dead Miko, as long as she did good and treated her and became a good person, but this last illusion was completely wiped out by the villagers. Humans' fear and rejection of their dead compatriots even exceeds their attitude towards half-demon. Regardless of whether they are monsters or half-demon, they are living creatures after all. Even if they belong to different camps, one thing is the same. They are all living in this world and will one day step into the underworld of death. However, Platycodon, which was resurrected with the help of clay, will not die and enjoy eternal life as long as the body is not broken and the soul is not dissipated. So now Platycodon grandiflorum has become a heretic in the eyes of humans. It will not die and has eternal life. Even if it still retains the human soul and thinks and behaves like humans, it still cannot be accepted by selfish creatures like humans. Because I am no longer human. After leaving this emotion, Kikyo chose to leave quietly at night without disturbing anyone in the village. Just looking at Kikyo's lonely back and this monologue, Miho felt complicated, and her hands that turned over the comics couldn't help but tremble. Miho could understand Kikyo's mood, and it was only at this moment that Miho finally understood why Kikyo chose to leave Inuyasha after his resurrection. Because the human named Kikyo has died, the Miko who fell in love with the half-demon and even decided to stay with the half-demon for the rest of her life has now lost the qualification to love. Platycodon has become a monster-like existence, not accepted by humans, nor will it be accepted by monsters. Compared to half-demon hybrids, the situation is even worse. Every living thing yearns for infinite life. Because it has never been available, it longs for and hopes for it. However, when such a being really appears, it is rejected as a monster, half-demon, a hybrid creature, is rejected by humans and monsters, but it is not to the point of being completely unacceptable. However, the dead creature is it's different. No matter what you do, no matter what level you reach, in the perception of the whole world, it already exists in a different world. Is this, Bailing Mountain? Huh. Naraku. At the end of the comic, Naraku suddenly appeared in front of Kikyo, and the two people who were supposed to be enemies turned out to be facing each other. Lord Kikyo, are you going to, do you have to wait another week? Miho saw this and immediately became worried. She wanted to watch the follow-up, but found that the manga ended here. She was a little depressed, but there was nothing she could do about it. Many people had complained about the bad taste of the Phoenix Academy murder card plot on the internet. Many times. First of all, I would like to apologize. Something happened at home recently. I will update my apology. I hope you will understand me. Of course, when the book is finished, it is not the kind of perfunctory ending that comes with a super simplified so-and-so ending. It is a complete book that is recognized by the cat himself. This is a must. The cat still has this kind of integrity above. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 233. Although some rumors have been curbed because Sebastian was behind the scenes, the impact it brought cannot be eliminated in a short time. In addition, Rina has been uncomfortable and wronged for a period of time, and someone has switched to a ghost. After entering the game mode, you begin to embark on the road of revenge that can bring you joy. Therefore, in the past month or so, many readers have noticed the malicious intentions of cartoonist Makoto Takahashi. Although the three yokai comics serialized at the same time have been affected by rumors, their rankings have declined. If the editorial department makes the decision to cut the comics in half because of such rumors, then Yaya, who has been involved in a certain incident before, Chenmu Menjai is a good gay group, but I feel a lot of pressure. Similar to a Jumumenha situation at that time, Takahashi Makoto's current comics have also been affected by external stimulation, which has led to a decline in rankings. However, Huang Mao Glasses, who was the original author at the time, was under pressure and had some inner demons in his heart. Therefore, Huang Mao Glasses forced himself to modify the plot for several consecutive chapters, and then creating some comics with neutral content, although in terms of results, neither gained recognition from readers nor stabilized the strong momentum of the comics as before. It can be said that both the people's hearts and the society have been lost. Although in the end, at the critical moment, Mr. Huang Mao Glasses strengthened his will under pressure, took a strong step, and reversed the situation. Due to the lessons learned from Ajumenha and the fact that Takahashi Makoto himself has the S attribute of ghost mode, faced with a similar situation, Takahashi Makoto would naturally not choose to compromise such a loss of dignity. Facing the pressure from the outside world, what Takahashi Makoto chose was naturally to start the love and kill mode. According to Makoto Takahashi's understanding, okay. Since you ignore the interestingness of comics because of these comments and gossip, let me change the content of the comics to see if you like comics more, or do you care more about rumors. So in Slippery Ghost, Riku Onura has gathered his teammates, led his men, and launched the final attack on the final enemy Abe Sime. Without any announcement, many readers were vaguely aware of it. The Slippery Ghost comic is about to be completed. However, according to Colonel Chu's style, the reason why the comic Slippery Ghost chose to do this is actually for layout, and it is just the beginning of the plan. In the comic Inuyasha, starting from the story of White Heart, through various overt or covered plots, all the main characters in the comic are led to Bailing Mountain. Needless to say, the protagonist Inuyasha and his party, the villain Naruko, needless to say, Your Excellency, even Platycodon grandiflorum who joined in the middle, and a certain cute wolf who escaped from marriage were also involved in this battle at Bailing Mountain. As Makoto Takahashi's layout, Inuyasha is the most important chess piece. Because the previous approach of Slippery Ghost also appeared in Inuyasha, many readers have had this wrong perception, and Inuyasha will also come to an end. It's over? Huh. How is this possible? Yoshida, who also had the same illusion, asked cautiously when receiving the manga manuscript, and got this answer. The plot here in Bailing Mountain has obviously brought together all the main characters in the comic. After knowing the truth, Yoshida did not burst into tears, but was resentful of someone's bad taste. Sure enough, did you do this on purpose? Huh? Although the plot of Bai Lingshan is the most classic scene in the entire Inuyasha, it is obvious that it is not the time for the decisive battle. The reason why I chose to do this is just because I am worried that many characters have not appeared for a long time. Just pull them all out to increase your sense of presence. At most, everyone can confirm with each other who is their destined opponent in the final battle. Isn't this a common plot in shonen comics? Makoto Takahashi's answer made Yoshida break out in a cold sweat. This is no longer a simple prank, but an absolute bad taste. My familiar cat, the gathering of all the characters means that the comic is about to enter the final chapter of the big showdown. Speaking of which, how did you come up with this wrong and imbecile cognition? It's probably because of someone's wrong misleading. Yoshida stared at Makoto Takahashi with dead eyes. So I came here today and I just want to ask if Inuyasha has really entered the final chapter. Then it's good to make an announcement on Young Jump. It will still take a while before the end of Inuyasha. But speaking of the end, he. After Takahashi Makoto was silent for a moment, a strange smile appeared on his face, especially Takahashi Makoto's terrifying kind. The laughter made Yoshida feel bad. Hey, my beloved cat, there is something I want to discuss with you, which is about the ending of an old comic and the beginning of a new comic, Yoa. Judging from your expression, I have already noticed it. Are you here yet? As expected, if I hadn't asked today, you wouldn't have said it, right? As your editor, it's been really hard for me. So, the comic that is about to be completed should be Slippery Ghost, right? Complaints are complaints. Yoshida still showed quite professional ability at this moment, although his tone was full of doubts. I wanted to discuss this with you before. After the decisive battle with Abe Sime, the content of Slippery Ghost is almost the same. After all, the Nura group has entered the final decisive battle, and there will probably be some scattered daily life after that. Content, of course it doesn't rule out that you will also have new main content. After solving the last big villain, the protagonist will naturally take his girl back to his hometown to get married. At this time, there will be a new villain or something. It is completely unnecessary to say. Yoshida didn't know if it was his own illusion, but he always felt that when Takahashi Makoto spoke of the new villain again, he deliberately emphasized the tone, and a hint of cunning flashed in his right eye. Then the new manga is? Yoshida just asked, and saw Makoto Takahashi taking out a thick stack of manga manuscripts from the drawer. His face could not help but be covered with black lines, and he started to complain while taking the manga manuscripts. Are there already so many? Because in the next period of time, we need to upgrade the main city and set up new barriers to collect human resentment in the future, so. Makoto Takahashi looked at the manga manuscript in Yoshida's hand and fell into a strange state of silence for a long time. After that, he sighed faintly, as the last comic of the yokai era, I also leave. Well, by the way, my familiar cat, let me tell you first, this comic can only be viewed from a distance, not played with. Who would do something like that? Oh, is that so? Looking at Yoshida's troubled expression, Takahashi Makoto pinched his chin. When I was working on Rebellion, I remember a certain unscrupulous idiot editor, but he ordered a special Phemius swimsuit pillow, he. By the way, Chang, I remember you said before that you wanted to finish 3 monster comics at the same time. Yoshida's face turned red and he immediately tried to change the topic. However, this superficial approach made Takahashi Makoto's face turn red. Smile brighter and gain more pleasure. Hey, do you still remember my familiar cat? After hearing about Yoshida's size, the smile on Makoto Takahashi's face gradually faded. I did think so before, to finish 3 yokai comics at the same time, and then continue with a monster comic is the end of the era, but now, thanks to those bastards, I have a new idea, a very interesting idea. My favorite cat, do you want to hear it? Whether it's the devilish smile on Makoto Takahashi's face at this moment, or Yoshida's first instinct, they all feel that what Takahashi Makoto is about to say is definitely not a good thing, and he wants to refuse rationally, but his curiosity refuses. Got sanity. At the beginning, I was worried that the ending I set before was too lethal and might make my followers resentful, so I followed the original plan and finished the 3 current monster comics at the same time, and then end the entire yokai era with a healing yokai comic, which will make everyone gradually heal and forget the glory of the yokai era. Ignoring Yoshida's tangled look at all, Takahashi Makoto was minding his own business. As he spoke, the expression on his face became more and more uncomfortable, but those bastards, since they have chosen to become the lackeys of the evil in this world and want to fight against the arrogant cartoonist Gohoin Jujhen, then I will let everyone do their best. Feel the consequences of disobeying God's will and offending God. I want the entire era of monsters to end in that way. I want to leave scars in the hearts of those bastards that will never be erased. I want to engrave despair and darkness in the souls of humans, and I will make them understand, this is what you will get if you offend God and the crazy cartoonist Phoenix Institute. A nearly roaring voice echoed in the room, and Makoto Takahashi's face became a little ferocious, since you dare to mock the Demon King. If you fall in love with a witch, you must be prepared to be cursed for life. Because feelings do not allow blasphemy, and the great God does not allow mediocrity to provoke you. Sure enough, it's still because of Rina's matter? Yoshida looked at the almost crazy Makoto Takahashi, with a hint of helplessness on his face. Although he felt that Makoto Takahashi's approach was a bit inappropriate, at this time, he still had to wait and see how it would get better. After all, Yoshida, who couldn't understand Makoto Takahashi's crazy delusions, just regarded it as a declaration of hopeless Chuyunibu. Yoshida, who planned to let Takahashi Makoto calm down, did not stay here to read the manga manuscript as usual, but consciously chose to leave. But when Yoshida left, looking at the devilish smile on Takahashi Makoto's face, he wanted to say something, but in the end he sighed several times. "My beloved cat, do you think I'm just joking?" Standing by the window, watching Yoshida's back, Makoto Takahashi showed a gloomy smile on his face. "After the era of monsters is over, the society we are about to enter era. The future dual plan is a cruel weapon that can absorb the resentment of the entire world. It can kill most of the human beings in the world at once. Tisk, it feels very cute just thinking about it. A certain cat chose to become a partner of justice. Without self-awareness, I want to save more people. Then a certain cat will end up like Lancer Diarmuid, betrayed by the person he was loyal to. This result has been seen through tarot cards. Ahem, this is not a certain cat's second-year syndrome, but just stating a fact to all of you. So I will try my best to prevent this book from opening all kinds of dark and cruel routes to Makoto because of my personal reasons before it is finished. That's all. Oh, by the way, some magical things happened at home recently, and the workload has exploded. The overtime zombie army is approaching, and the update this week has entered a weak stage. Except for some super unexpected reasons, such as calling to inform overtime in the middle of the night, it is basically rare to update more, and try not to stop updating. That's basically it. If you feel unhappy, I apologize very sincerely. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Email. Chapter 234. Chapter 234 The Lost Guest. Looking forward to it. According to past habits, Yoshida came to Takahashi Makoto's house to collect manga manuscripts, but when he entered the door, he was shocked by Takahashi Makoto's crazy behavior. Takahashi Makoto had a weird smile on his face, holding burning paper in his hand, and was throwing it around. Although Yoshida had heard Makoto Takahashi mention that he was going to move, and although most of the manga manuscripts had been moved, there are still many flammable discarded manga manuscripts stored in this home. Did you see it? This is the fireworks barrage from Gensokyo. Bayubiya Bayu. Makoto Takahashi looked at Yoshida, who had just entered the door, with a broken smile on his face, and entered the full bomb launch mode. "Hey, my beloved cats, let's play together. Ha 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 ha." Although Yoshida promptly stopped Takahashi Makoto's suspected self-immolation behavior, he still ignited some discarded manga manuscripts. Although Yoshida tried his best to rescue and extinguish the sparks, Takahashi Makoto had no reflection at all. Self-consciously, he was still holding the lit paper, laughing wildly, and shooting firework barrages everywhere. After educating Takahashi Makoto well, Yoshida, who was still frightened, had a new understanding of the extent of a certain middle school student's convulsions. After confiscating the fire starter, looking at Makoto Takahashi's unwilling look, Yoshida felt it was necessary to have a good talk with this guy with a convulsive brain about some common sense issues about normal human life. "Why would you do such a thing?" Yoshida said in a serious tone, turning on the preaching mode, trying to launch a spiritual whisper mental attack on Takahashi Makoto. This is after all. This is the only thing left by Makoto Takahashi's parents who have passed away. However, Makoto Takahashi wanted to burn the house down before. Yoshida said he could not understand what Makoto Takahashi did. Although he was excited for a moment, Yoshida's remaining reason prevented Yoshida from saying the rest of the words. "Hey, my dependents, don't try to rely on the existence of family, friendship, love, etc. to restrain the fierceness of Phoenix Academy like in the juvenile comics. Even if you practice to the proud level of talking, you can't do anything to me. It's useless." Makoto Takahashi had already guessed what Yoshida wanted to say. After pondering for a moment, Makoto Takahashi, who was wearing a white coat, suddenly turned his head and asked Yoshida with a black face, because men, this kind of creature, once bound by the so-called fetters, will become timid, so do you understand? If you are obsessed with the past, you will never reach the end of the world and become the tyrant who ravages the world. Yo. Is that why you did that crazy move? Yoshida recalled Takahashi Makoto's previous actions, and the corners of his mouth kept twitching. Before moving, you wanted to burn down the original residence. It's a crime to be careful about causing a fire. And aren't you worried, Chen, that you won't be able to control the fire and hurt yourself? My beloved cat, in order to prevent further tracking by the organization, when changing to a new stronghold, he faked death through a fire or something, but it is a classic escape technique. Don't you even know this? Tisk 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 tisk. It's really superficial. Slowly walking in front of Yoshida, Takahashi Makoto stretched out his hand and started to complain to Yoshida. Okay, don't say these boring things, it will cause heavenly fire. Return your precious phantom to me, and let our souls live forever in the Red Lotus karmic fire. Aiken, to be honest, I really doubt how you have survived until now. Yoshida sighed feebly, leaning on the sofa, with a look of complete joy on his face. If I had been here again today, if I arrive here later, I'm afraid. Hey. Since you can't use magic attacks to destroy the stronghold, let's waste a little energy and switch to physical attack mode. Makoto Takahashi looked at Yoshida's expression of refusing to hand over the fire-drawing treasure, and said unhappily. He curled his lips and pulled out the magic sword Broken Star, with an unknown smile on his face. In this case, let's treat it as a practice of mysteries. By the way, let's test the defense of the original stronghold. Ah, I don't care, you can do whatever you want. Yoshida saw that Takahashi Makoto was determined to destroy this room, and reluctantly gave up on trying to stop Takahashi Makoto. Of course, the most important reason is that when Takahashi Makoto waved the magic sword in his hand, he had already passed by Yoshida several times. Even though Yoshida has developed a master-level evasion ability under the perennial pressure of a certain middle school student, he still feels a lot of pressure when facing Makoto Takahashi, who has entered the second lady. Oh! At this time, the magic sword passed by Yoshida's head with a slight difference, and took away the mission item that can reduce the favorability of women's single-dependent cat-headed hair. Makoto Takahashi looked at the pale Yoshida, sneered disdainfully, stopped his attack, and took out his mobile phone from his white coat. Sabas-chan, it must be a very important thing to call you at this time, right? Although Yoshida pretended not to care, he secretly stretched his neck, tried hard to strengthen his hearing, and eavesdropped on the content of Makoto Takahashi's phone call. Makoto Takahashi seemed to have noticed Yoshida's actions, with a smile on his face. Under Yoshida's surprised eyes, he pressed the hands-free button and put the phone in front of him. I'm very sorry to disturb you at this time, Master. Sebastian didn't say any nonsense and went straight to the topic. But according to the situation I have, the lost guest is coming tonight, so I will notify you in advance. Lost guests? I thought they were cowards before, but it turns out they have been building up momentum during this period. I was a little disappointed that they didn't make any moves, but they chose today. Their intelligence and personnel are quite interesting. I'm in a good mood today, so I can treat the lost guests well and let them watch a gorgeous show. The previous attempt to set the house on fire failed, and he just stopped swinging his sword with resentment. Can this be considered a good mood? Yoshida looked at Takahashi Makoto talking to Sebastian with a smile on his face, and his body couldn't help trembling, although he didn't know who the person who was coming here tonight was, and he didn't know whether the other party was simply visiting with good intentions, or was asking for a beating. Yoshida had already begun to mourn for the other party in his heart. Hey, my cat, even if you look curious, I won't tell you. After Takahashi Makoto ended the call, he looked at Yoshida's tangled expression, and before the other party could speak, he directly cut off the other party's thoughts. The most I can tell you is that there will be an interesting massacre party here tonight. I'll ask you as usual, do you want to join? Massacre, party. Hearing the name in Makoto Takahashi's style, Yoshida shook his head decisively, and even prepared an excuse. There's something going on with Hirameru-kun tonight, I have to deal with it. As for your party, no need to come. If you see some scenes that are not suitable for children, I'll be very worried. Makoto Takahashi sighed with some regret. After all, beating and killing with your own hands is quite loving in the betrayal game, but training a pet cat from scratch is very troublesome. My pet cat, do you think I'm right? Ah-Cheng, since you still have to entertain guests tonight, then I won't waste your time. Yoshida looked like he saw his wife and best friend making love, hurriedly picked up the comic manuscript, cast instant open and left. If I stay any longer, maybe Makoto Takahashi will enter Unit -01's rampage state and kill himself. My computer crashed yesterday, and I installed the system until very late. I apologize for the interruption. Then I said before that I would become a partner of justice, and yesterday the heart-to-heart talk with leader mission was triggered. Damn, do you have to be so awesome? Although a cat is a supporting role, and was also taught a lesson, I don't want to say more about the matter. Just write the book with peace of mind. After finishing this book, a cat will go back to her hometown to get married. Justice. Humph. Justice. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 235. As the eldest son of the Iwazaki Foundation, he was nicknamed the Pretty Boy Iwazaki by Makoto Takahashi. He originally planned to attack Rina after the concert. The reason why it was delayed until now was because a certain intelligence officer kindly provided a lot of information. And it comes with a complete plan. This seemingly evil plan made Iwazaki Pretty Boy very interested. Mr. Iwazaki, I have provided you with detailed information before, so in terms of costs. I understand, the deposit has been transferred to you, and the remaining part will have to wait until I get it tonight. A hoarse and weird voice came from the other end of the phone. It was obvious that the voice had changed, and Iwazaki was a little unhappy. The other party was hiding his head and showing his tail, but as an excellent collaborator, Iwazaki could only complain in his heart at most. After all, this kind of thing is not very honorable, and the pretty boy Iwazaki doesn't want to antagonize the other party. But I'm curious, where did you get this information? Haha, this is a business secret. Please forgive me for not revealing it. The person on the phone seemed to have already known Iwazaki's plan and politely declined. Well, I wish you a wonderful night tonight, Mr. Iwazaki. Huh. You're a pretentious guy. After Iwazaki hung up the phone, he snorted dissatisfiedly and called his closest men. Iwazaki asked with a ferocious smile on his face, "How are you ready?" "Young master, don't worry. The professional photography team and professional actors are all ready and ready to go at any time." Yamashita, as Iwazaki's follower, naturally follows Iwazaki's pretty face to do such things. Look at the familiarity with the car. Just look at it. There was also an expectant smile on his face, but when he saw the look on Iwazaki's face, Yamashita, who had mastered the master's ability to observe words and emotions, immediately asked, "Young master, do you have any other orders? After tonight, let's check the whereabouts of that person." Huh. He's just an information dealer, but he dares to open his mouth and ask for so much money. Is the money from my Iwazaki Foundation so easy to collect? For the previous kindness, the mysterious person who provided the information made Iwazaki pretty a little unhappy when he thought about it. As the eldest son of the Iwazaki Consortium, he was always used to things going well. When had he ever suffered such a loss? But when I think about tonight's show, Iwazaki's face becomes full of anticipation. You actually spent so much money, Ogatarina, hum. After tonight, you will become my young master's plaything. Young master, actually it's about money. Yamashita revealed a lewd smile on his face and whispered softly, after the film is released, will you make any money if you don't protect all the money? That's right, the smile on Iwazaka's face was exactly the same as Yamashita's, let's go and meet the female lead who is not wearing clothes tonight. Ha ha ha. Takahashi Makoto, who was wearing a white coat, gently wiped the cold light-filled magic sword in his hand, while Sadaharu and Ruri huddled quietly at Takahashi Makoto's feet. Next to him, Sabas-chan, wearing a black standing behind Makoto Takahashi in a butler's attire with a respectful expression, there is a pair of master and servant-like wax figures, if Sabas-chan hadn't taken off the earphones from his ears. Oh, have you finally started taking action? It's been such a delay. Master, don't you have to complain anymore, Sabas-chan put down his earphones, narrowed his eyes, and revealed a devilish smile at the corner of his mouth. You didn't even check the authenticity of the information that came to your door. Do you just believe it? It seems that what you said is true, young master. Human beings are superficial creatures after all. That stupid pretty face, you don't know that the reason why a witch is called a witch is actually because the witch has been cursed by the whole world from the moment she was born. Takahashi Makoto's face showed a look that was no different from Sabas-chan's. With a smile, but this is good. Before this barrier is abandoned, I can still perform one last time. I am looking forward to the next sideshow. After all, the self-righteous ignorance of human beings is based on the nature of toys. Being able to please you is pretty good. It is expected that the guests will arrive in about 20 minutes. Sebastian took out his pocket watch from the pocket of his evening gown and looked at Makoto Takahashi with squinted eyes. He bowed and suggested, Master, it's time to change your clothes. After all, it's a bit rude to receive guests dressed like this. Hey. It's really troublesome. But forget it. Makoto Takahashi stood up and threw the magic sword aside. Iwazaka-chan, the servants summoned this time, judging from the number, meet the requirements. There should be only assassins, right? Really, you want to make up for it with quantity when you lack quality? But Sabas-chan, did that idiot forget that I am a demon who can summon hundreds of ghosts? Lord. Sabas-chan, who disguised himself as an information dealer, charged Iwazaki a high fee and then sold him out without mercy. After learning about Iwazaka's plans, Makoto Takahashi originally planned to take his cats and dogs with him to the Iwazaka Foundation, which the pretty boy was proud of, to have a Hyakuki night walk. However, after learning about Saba, after Sai-chan's plan, Takahashi Makoto, who turned on the ghost mode, naturally gave up the original plan. Takahashi Makoto, who had already arranged everything in private, began to instruct Sebastian to reveal the news to Iwazaka pretty boy. After a period of hesitation, Iwazaka pretty boy finally took action before Takahashi Makoto lost his patience. Yes, this outfit is very suitable. Although the defense is lower than that of Wufeng Guangai Yuan Xiangjin's exclusive spiritual outfit white coat, it is very suitable for tonight. After changing clothes, Takahashi Makoto fiddled with his clothes, looked at his new look in the mirror, and nodded with satisfaction. Hey, Sebastian, I wanted to ask you before. According to the usual practice, you can handle these things privately. I just think that you are very hard to paint every day, so I find some entertainment to please you. Sebastian, who was originally slender, has now become a burly muscular brother, but the only flaw is that Sebastian's handsome appearance is somewhat inconsistent with his current figure. In response to Takahashi Makoto's question, Sebastian smiled and bowed slightly. Of course, if you feel that my actions have wasted your time, or that this entertainment program cannot please you. Well, no, let's just continue. Noticing the cold light flashing in Sebastian's eyes, Takahashi Makoto hesitated for a moment and shook his head, with an expectant smile on his face. The curse carried by each witch is different, and the curse carried by Witch Rina, Iwazaki little white face, have you felt the call of the brothers hell sea to you? As if cursed by Takahashi Makoto, Iwazaki little white face, who had just arrived at the downstairs of Takahashi Makoto's apartment, shivered inexplicably. Could this be the long-lost telepathy? Meow. Liuli suddenly jumped onto Takahashi Makoto, and tried her best to act like a spoiled child in Takahashi Makoto's arms. Oh! Is she here already? Takahashi Makoto teased Liuli in his arms, while looking up at Sebastian, who was ready to go beside him, with a strange smile on his face. Since the guests are here, let's start the party. Remember to be polite, Sebastian. Roar, a low roar like a beast. It's hard to believe that the gentle Sebastian can make such a sound. The smile on Sebastian's face, which had always been smiling, has disappeared. If it weren't for Sebastian's current muscular appearance, it would be hard to imagine how he could lift such a weapon that was so powerful. Tisk tisk tisk, you are indeed a professional butler. This ability to get into the role is really... Takahashi Makoto gently put Liuli in his arms down, stood up, and gave a high evaluation of Sebastian's performance, nodding and praising. In that case, go, Berserker. Berserker. Hey, Takahashi Makoto and Sebastian, you guys are having so much fun. Everyone should go to bed early. I use the computer at work, and when I get home, I use the computer to write. I'm almost assimilated by the computer. I roughly calculated the time and found that I spend about 12 hours in front of the computer every day. Everyone has the responsibility to protect their eyes, so please treat them well. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 236. Good evening, everyone. With impeccable aristocratic etiquette, Makoto Takahashi showed an extremely kind and friendly smile on his face, wearing an eye patch. The night is long and I have no intention of sleeping. I thought I was the only one like this. I didn't expect you all to do the same. In that case, how about we talk about it? Don't just talk about the curse on the witch like a frightened little rabbit. Iwazaki pretty boy and his group had no blood on their faces and were completely speechless. Because standing in front of them was a burly, muscular brother Takao, and the smiling Makoto Takahashi, and what frightened them the most was the vast expanse of cats and dogs surrounding them. I have to say, the scene is really horrifying. The reason for this situation is to go back in time a little. According to the plan provided by Sabas-chan, Iwazaki pretty boy is very well prepared and is about to launch a plan to capture and tame the witch. Unfortunately, the plan has ended before it even started. Because Iwazaki pretty boy and his group had just gotten out of the car when they were attacked by a mysterious monster. The night is good tonight. At least in the dark, Iwazaki and his friends can clearly see what the incoming monster looks like. The burly brother with strong muscles held a huge weapon in his hand that didn't look very lethal. His scarlet eyes were obscured by his messy long hair. He kept roaring like a wild beast, without any intention of communicating. After seeing Iwazaki's pretty boy and his group, he just pounced on them. The Iwazaki pretty boy and his group were frightened by the ferocious and excessive fighting power displayed by Sabas-chan dressed as Berserker. The Iwazaki pretty boy who was hiding at the back became a veritable baby face this time. As the young master of the Iwazaki Foundation, Iwazaki pretty face will naturally bring a group of riding bodyguards, which is also called a lackadaisical follower, when he travels. Although they are nominally to protect the safety of Iwazaki pretty face, these guys have formed a habit of following Iwazaki pretty face and doing evil. However, this group of people did not expect that this time they would meet Sabas-chan, who had just transferred to Berserker, and then tragedy would happen. By the way, is this monster in front of me really a human? Seeing Sabas-chan waving the heavy weapon in his hand and easily knocking away the bodyguards who rushed towards him, Iwazaki-chan's face turned pale. Although at the beginning, Iwazaka's pretty boy brought a dozen people with him to shoot the sexy action movie and prepared to entertain the ungrateful Ogatarina. At that time, Iwazaka was still worried that too many people would affect the shooting and fun. Or something, they eliminated some people before leaving, but now facing the ferocious Sabas-chan, Iwazaka pretty boy felt extremely regretful for his previous actions. Constantly abandoning his subordinates in exchange for a chance to escape, Iwazaka's pretty boy made the right choice at this time. After all, Sabas-chan is in such a state that he doesn't have enough mobility. As long as he allocates his hands to keep pestering him, there is a chance of escape. However, the Iwazaka pretty boy and his group who originally chose to escape suddenly stopped. Because before they knew it, the army of cats and dogs had surrounded them. That's not okay. It's rare that the host has carefully prepared a party. As guests, it's not good for you to leave in the middle of the party. Standing among the cats and dogs was a tall man wearing a hat and a black robe. Chiao-chan. A faint smile appeared on Takahashi Makoto's face, but it made Iwazaka pretty boy and his group tremble with fear. Although there was a Hayaki night parade at the concert, a kind-hearted intelligence officer suggested that it was just arranged in advance, but now looking at Makoto Takahashi's appearance, Iwazaka pretty boy knew that he had been tricked. Especially when he saw Makoto Takahashi just making two casual gestures, the cats and dogs immediately gave way. Iwazaka's pretty boy even began to wonder if Makoto Takahashi was hiding his profession as a druid. I'm sorry to say that my hidden profession is not that of a druid. If it were really a druid, what you are facing today is not a night-walking monster composed of cats and dogs, but, haha, Makoto Takahashi said, looking thoughtfully at the face of Iwazaka, whose body was shaking with fear. Don't say it in such a scared way, at least I will be kind enough to leave you a little time, write a suicide note or explain your last words or something. So, what are you going to do? Faced with the predicament of being surrounded by enemies from all sides, Iwazaka's face could no longer bear it. His legs began to tremble and his words became stammering. You can, anything, as long as you let me go. Hey, the time has come. Next, use your body and soul to feel the curse that comes from the witch. Makoto Takahashi interrupted Iwazaka's words without politeness and turned to face him. Sabas-chan, who was in brother mode, ordered, then let's do this, kill them, berserker. Roar. Sabas-chan, who was holding a giant weapon with a ferocious look on his face, rushed toward Iwazaka's pretty boy and his group. Landai, who lives next door to Takahashi Makoto, has been under a lot of pressure recently. The goals that Ajuma Menha has always wanted to surpass are Shinzuma Eiji and Takahashi Makoto. Although Takahashi Makoto's recent affairs with Rina have caused the rankings of several comics to decline, and Ajuma Menha's PCP once the goal of transcendence was achieved, but Landai knew very well in his heart that that time was just an accident. Excluding external interference, he still lacked a lot from those two monsters. Therefore, not only did he complete the comic drafts required every week, Landai would stay in the studio at night after finishing his work every day and work hard to practice drawing. There is nothing wrong with Akito's story, the difference is in the painting. So the one holding me back now, is me. Although Landai is very conscious and perseverant, sometimes, in addition to his own will, what determines the success or failure of something is some external factors, such as the roar coming from next door, or the whimsical sound coming from next door. Sound, and another example is the sound of rough breathing coming from next door. Landai, who was seriously practicing his painting skills, suddenly closed his eyes. It was not that he had mastered the ability of the mind's eye, nor that he had awakened the magical skill of being able to draw with his eyes closed, but that he wanted to draw by closing his eyes. Producing an effect similar to sympathy, trying to forcefully close one's hearing and block those strange sounds coming from next door. It's finally over. Feeling the sound next door gradually weakening, Landai, who was blushing, let out a sigh of relief. That guy Aiken is really Blushing Landai, are you sure that when you closed your eyes just now, you wanted to enter a state of self-hypnosis and ignore the voice that makes people feel embarrassed after hearing it, instead of imagining the scene of you having sex with your CEO's sister? Ahem, but having said that, classmate Landai is still quite curious, not about those embarrassing things, but curious about Makoto Takahashi, who does this every night. Does he still have the time and energy to draw during the day? Sure enough, that guy Aiken is no longer a human being in terms of pure physical strength, right? Momo complained in his heart, twisted his wrists slightly, looked at the wall clock on the wall. Landai took a deep breath, calmed down his previous random thoughts, and was about to enter the refining comic skills copy again, but suddenly next door the sound that rang out dispelled Landai's previously brewing momentum with just one blow. "Hey Cheng, you bastard, don't go too far. It's already the 7th day, and you don't want people to sleep and work." Landai resisted the urge to kick in the door, resisted the anger of killing people after his domineering transformation, and roared angrily. The entire empty studio even trembled a little, and the strange sounds next door also suddenly stopped. And if I had known it would have such an effect, I should have done this on the first day. The one who lives next door, I remember the adults said, seems to be. Dear, don't worry, let's do it again. Just when Landai was feeling complacent about being so domineering for the first time, he was able to use roar and roar, but the sound coming from the next door shocked Landai. Because that was not Makoto Takahashi's voice, but the voice of a strange man. No, to be precise, it should be the voices of two men. Two men, damn it! What is going on? Landai stood up in horror, staring at the wall adjacent to the next room, with cold sweat breaking out from behind, as if he wanted to use his thoughts to perform perspective magic, and at this moment, Landai's phone started to vibrate, and the caller ID was Makoto Takahashi. "Hey, Chen, there seem to be two men in your room." Landai-jun, who is pure and has not abandoned his moral integrity, still finds it difficult to talk about some things, but this does not hinder his communication with Takahashi Makoto. "Tisk, tisk, didn't you realize it until now? You are really slow, Mr. Landai." Takahashi Cheng's voice came from the phone, but it sounded like Takahashi Cheng was blaming Landai. When Landai spoke, Takahashi Makoto started talking to himself. "I thought you would find out soon if you were masturbating with a paintbrush every night. To be honest, I was very disappointed." Say. Discovery means. Because I was infiltrated by the organization, I had no choice but to change the barrier. Although it has been about a week, but in order to prevent being discovered by the organization, I cannot tell you the detailed address. Makoto Takahashi was on the phone. Yawning, he said in a nonchalant tone, "Now the barrier has been roughly completed, and the lackeys of the organization have been temporarily thrown away. In short, Cheng, have you changed your address a week ago?" Speaking of Cheng, when did you? Oh, forget it. Landai was completely speechless. Because of things like moving, the person living next door, I didn't realize it at all. I'm calling you so late. Is there something wrong? Hey, Mr. Landai, you must have heard some strange noises in the past few nights, right? Makoto Takahashi's tone became a little frivolous. I remember that you and Mr. Huang-haired glasses are good friends, right? Although I don't know the distribution of attacks and losses between the two of you, but I recommend two teachers to you. As long as you learn with humility, the hidden plot of friends pushing each other can still be triggered. When the time comes. He hung up the phone without hesitation, and Landai's face became quite ugly. Although Takahashi Makoto's philosophy persuasion was not completely successful, Landai has been eroded and his whole person is not good. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 237. Because Makoto Takahashi frantically used philosophical hints, Landai kept a certain distance from his good gay friend since that night. For example, when discussing the plot of the comic, Landai can keep a distance of 3 meters from the yellow-haired glasses man. For example, when discussing the development of the comic with Hattori, Ajumumenha and Ajumumenha originally sat opposite Hattori together, but now it has become a three-legged approach. Regarding Landai's abnormal behavior, Mr. Huang Mao Glasses also noticed it, but because he was not tortured by Makoto Takahashi evilly, Mr. Huang Mao Glasses did not think about it, but regarding the strange behavior of his good gay friend, Huang Mao Glasses Mr. Glasses is a wife man, but he decided to have an honest talk. "Hey, Supreme, you've been..." The yellow-haired glasses man pushed up his glasses and looked at Landai, whose body was shaken, with a puzzled look on his face. "Did something happen?" "No, it's nothing." Looking at his good friend's confused expression, Landai couldn't help but feel a little nervous, and subconsciously moved back. Seeing the concerned look on his good friend's face, Landai panicked and tried to find an excuse. Chiu-ren, give me the plot of the manga today, and then go back and spend more time with Kanye-chan. After all, you are a couple, so drawing comics cannot affect you. It's okay, Kanye-chan understands this aspect quite well. The yellow-haired glasses man was a little surprised by his good friend's concern, but there was a strange look on his face. "I didn't expect you, Supreme, would think about this, but isn't Mr. Hattori coming over later? Although I'll be complained by Kanye-chan if I come home late, I want you to realize your dream as soon as possible. Do you know why Mr. Huang-haired glasses helps you wholeheartedly? That's right, this is what is called love. Love, what a great thing, it has been praised by the world for many years. Don't think that you are all men, there will be no love, because love can exist across race and gender. And since you are of the same gender and have been together for so many years, the summoning conditions of the field magic by Bay Mountain have already been met. It seems that I recalled the previous time." Regarding the content of Makoto Takahashi's second brainwashing, Landai's face instantly turned a little pale, and his speech became stammering. Thank you, Chi-ren. What are you talking about now? We are Yachin Mumanjai. It's natural to help each other. Ha ha ha. The yellow-haired glasses man was quite surprised by Landai's performance, but he didn't think much about it. "I just said something casually, but I found that my good friend's face turned a little ugly, and I couldn't help but feel nervous. Hey, Supreme, what happened? Did you have a fight with Yadu-chan? How is that possible?" "Hey, Chi-ren, actually, the thing is like this." After hesitating again and again, Landai thought it was better to talk about the matter. After all, Landai's favorite thing in his heart is still the CEO's sister. Emotional matters don't be sloppy. After listening to Landai's stammering narration, Huang Mao Glass's silent reaction shocked Landai, and his face became quite frightened. However, before Landai could speak, Huang Mao Glass's June suddenly let out a burst of laughter that resounded throughout the room. "Ha ha ha, the best, you actually thought, ha 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 ha." Landai finally reacted to his good friend's hilarious reaction. It seemed that his previous worries were completely unnecessary. Landai's face instantly turned very ugly, and he kept mumbling, "That's true. That bastard Aiken, that bastard. After this battle, Aiken Mumenha is a good gay friend." The slight distance caused by Takahashi Makoto's bad taste completely disappeared after the two people's frank and gay communication. At the same time, Landai's level of resentment towards Takahashi Makoto increased by 10%, and his fighting spirit was high, because now there was another reason to attack Takahashi Makoto. By the way, because the yellow-haired glasses man laughed too proudly, Landai, who was depressed and angry, started a fist-to-fist fight with his gay friend. During the fight, the tacit understanding of homosexuality increased again. Sure enough, the love between men is born in battle. When editor Hattori arrived, he saw two people in shabby clothes, lying on the ground laughing. He couldn't help but curiously asked, "Takagi-kun, Mashiro-kun, What happened? Lan Dai and Huangmao glasses didn't tell Hattori what happened before, but they were very confused about the early arrival of Hattori's editor. Because editor Hattori has always been quite punctual, he may be late occasionally due to some irresistible factors, but if he arrives early, especially when talking, the sad look between editor Hattori's brows, not to mention the intuitive and accurate Huang, even the always cute Lan Dai noticed it. So Mr. Hattori, what exactly happened? After discussing the comics as usual, the man with yellow-haired glasses, who is the foreign minister of Ajumu asked curiously, is it about comics? This. Looking at the curious looks on Ajumu two faces, editor Hattori hesitated for a moment, and finally sighed and took out a manga manuscript from the backpack he carried. Alas, anyway, you should read this comic first. This comic has been confirmed and will be serialized in the next issue of Shonen Jump. Newly serialized comics. Yachin Mumenjai looked at each other and did not take the comic manuscript immediately. Instead, they asked editor Hattori in confusion, Mr. Hattori, although I am very curious about the content of the new comics, but if we read the comics before they are serialized, isn't it a bit, not good? I also know that this is not in line with the rules, but the editor-in-chief has already approved this matter, and this is also the condition for the original author to propose a new serialization. Looking at the two people who were thinking, editor Hattori spread his hands helplessly and said with a sad face, I think you should know without me saying more, right? The author of this comic is. Sure enough, it's that bastard Ah Cheng. This time, it's not just Lan Dai who is gritting his teeth, but also the yellow-haired glasses man. The reason why Lan Dai is angry is naturally because of the crazy brainwashing of Takahashi Makoto's philosophy Diamond Suit learning before, and the reason why the yellow-haired glasses man is angry is because Takahashi Makoto's behavior is really too underestimated. The reason I want to do this is just to remind you that I'm going to use my ultimate move. So don't wait until you lose, then hide in a corner with a sad face like a stray dog, and resent the unfairness of the world. These are the original words of the cartoonist Hao Winkuma. Hattori didn't care about the Spartan expressions of Aho and Mumenjai, but continued to add, and according to the information revealed by Yoshida, after this comic is finished, the cartoonist Hao Winkuma will no longer draw comics on the theme of monsters, so this is the last comic in the monster era. Ding! The phones of Aho and Mumenjai rang at the same time. It was the sound of receiving a text message. The person who sent the message was naturally Makoto Takahashi. I think your servant has already told you, right? So, the crazy cartoonist Hao Winkuma would like to ask, have you thought of the most gorgeous way to die, common people? A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do SD Mao. Chapter 238. Natsum's Book of Friends. This is Makoto Takahashi's new manga that will be serialized soon, and it is also the final manga of the yokai era. When they saw the first draft of this comic, several cartoonists were a little confused. Although as a manga that ends the yokai era, there will be monsters in the manga, but unlike Takahashi Makoto's previous yokai manga, the male protagonist in this manga is much weaker. In the comic Inuyasha, the half-demon Inuyasha, who holds the demon sword left by the dog father, has a sky-breaking combat power with the bonus of the protagonist's aura, and in the other comic Slicker, he also belongs to the half-demon camp. Nurarikyo, although only a quarter of his monster blood is left, but as the third generation of the Nura group, he can lead the existence of Hyakuki Yaka, and his strength is naturally not much weaker. As for the manga Shio-in with Tiger, although Xiao Chao is just an ordinary human, the weapon in his hand, the beast's spear, is too heaven-defying. He has an artifact that can restrain all monsters, so of course Xiao Chao's combat power goes without saying. However, in the new comic Natsum's Book of Friends, as the male protagonist, Natsum looked so embarrassed when he appeared on the stage, which really surprised several cartoonists who saw the manga manuscript. Compared with the previous three yokai comics, although the current weak protagonist is closer to reality, several cartoonists have a strange sense of dissonance. This is of course, after all, they have been used to yokai comics before. In the mode, the protagonist has strong strength, and suddenly being replaced by a weak protagonist is a bit unfamiliar. Although there is no precedent in yokai comics for the protagonist to be caught by a yokai from the very beginning, existences like Natsum are quite rare. Of course, as the protagonist, Natsum also has a special ability, which is to see existences that other humans cannot see, which are so-called monsters. But if you can see the monsters, you can only dodge them at most. After all, as the male protagonist, Natsum is not like Zyashio, whose combat power can reach the sky after picking up a magical weapon. Natsum Takashi is, after all, just an ordinary high school student with special abilities. Not long after the opening of the first episode, Natsum was caught by a monster. When faced with the monster's attempt to pull out his tongue, Natsum broke free in time and turned on the memory-killing mode at the same time. According to the common plots of many comic novels, after the memory kill, the protagonist will awaken powerful abilities, such as bloodline awakening, explosive seeds, or small universe explosions, etc., and kill the enemies that appeared before with one blow, achieving a great reversal in life. While getting rid of the predicament, he began to enter the proud mode of pushing girls and collecting subordinates, and then embarked on the proud path of killing gods and Buddhas. However, Natsum's memory killing is not a recollection of a conversation with a mysterious master, nor is it the various opportunities to open cheats when he was a child, it is just an unpleasant childhood past. When Natsum was a child, he would always do some unusual things because he could see the presence of monsters. However, the adults who could not see it would regard Natsum's actions as adults' arbitrary self-discipline and think that the children Natsum did this deliberately, just to attract attention. No one believed Natsum. In the manga, Natsum, who was immersed in memories, accidentally destroyed the barrier of a shrine and released a monster. Although this plot seems to be somewhat similar to the previously serialized Tide and Tiger, several cartoonists believe that the subsequent development content will definitely not be the same. Because in the comics, after the seal of the shrine is broken, the monster that appears is not a ferocious-looking, brainless existence clamoring to eat people, but an unusually fat lucky cat. This monster that appeared in the shape of a round lucky cat made several cartoonists on the side of the cartoonists fall into a state of speechlessness. Not only because of the unfolding of the comic plot, but also because someone once appeared in front of everyone wearing such a costume one night and kidnapped a certain star who was performing a concert. The Lucky Cat yokai is a powerful monster, but because it was sealed in the Lucky Cat's body for a long time, it was assimilated. Because he was grateful to Natsum for breaking the seal, he planned to protect Natsum who was chased by the monster, and let Natsum call yourself Cat Teacher. Under the guidance of Teacher Cat, the existence of the Book of Friends finally appeared in front of everyone at the end of the first episode. Like Natsum, Natsum's grandmother, Natsum Raiko, can also see supernatural beings such as monsters. However, unlike Natsum, who is weak, Raiko defeated many monsters with her own strength and wrote their names as a booklet of contacts, which is the Book of Friends in Natsum's hand at the end of the manga. Although the content of the first episode ends here, several cartoonists on the cartoonist side looked quite serious after reading the first episode. As the last manga of the yokai era, although there are still many things that have not been explained clearly in the first chapter, Makoto Takahashi, who has a strong fighting ability in comics, and several manga artists on the manga artist side, still feel that, together, it's better to discuss it. Of course, the most important thing is the taunting messages that Takahashi Makoto sent in groups before. Friendly reminder from the system, player Makoto Takahashi activated the skill group taunting on all cartoonist side members. All cartoonist side members entered team mode, their combat power entered a state of skyrocketing, and the effect of group taunting was outstanding. Congratulations to the player Makoto Takahashi for successfully reaching the peak of death before he is about to change his job as an educator. The reason for this prompt is that all the members of the cartoonist side are now gathered in a coffee shop. All of them hold the new cartoon manuscript of Takahashi Makoto in their hands. If passers-by do not see the angry expressions on the faces of some people who want to kill, they may mistakenly think that this is a gathering of fanatical fans of a cartoonist. How dare you say that? Ah Cheng is so arrogant. The person who spoke fiercely was naturally the silver-haired brother Fukuda. Compared with the cartoonists present, the silver-haired brother has a very hot temper. After hearing the editor Yujiro relay Takahashi Makoto's words and receiving Takahashi Makoto's text message, the angry silver-haired guy unceremoniously threw his editor Yujiro over his shoulder. Although I also think that Aiken is too arrogant this time. The yellow-haired man with glasses put down the comic manuscript in his hand, with an embarrassed expression on his face. He pushed his glasses and glanced at his indignant companions. After hesitating for a moment, he still said what he was worried about, and I admit that this comic is really good, but if you want to make us all give up with this comic, Aiken, that guy, underestimates us too much, right? The silver-haired man looked at Nazuma Eiji, who was obsessed with the comic, and a trace of doubt flashed across his face. It has been a while since he got the comic manuscript. Why is Nazuma Eiji still reading it? Shaking his head vigorously, the silver-haired young man tried to get rid of the messy thoughts in his head, because the focus today was not this. So this time I was anxious for you to come here, just to discuss the order of attack. As the summoner of the heroes this time, the silver-haired young man took the lead in shifting the main purpose of today to comics after venting his anger and unwillingness. Just like the last time we stopped Master Nazuma from finishing his manga, this time we will also use manga to decide the outcome. But in order to prevent what happened last time, we gathered everyone today to discuss the order of priority, so that we don't kill each other and make that guy Chen even more arrogant. Agreed. Most of the cartoonists on the cartoonist side nodded in agreement. Of course, there were also people who remained silent, such as Nazuma Eiji, who was still reading the manga, and the little sea otter who was willing to regard Takahashi Makoto as a lifelong offering to the god. Eh? What? Are you going to go against the god of Phoenix? As if thinking of something terrifying, the little sea otter held his head with both hands and curled up in fear. No, 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 you have to if you want to sin against the Lord of Phoenix Ingamai. Even Yoshida wouldn't dare to do this. No, no. Teacher Hiramaru is still as unmotivated as usual. But after discovering that the little sea otter had entered a timid state, the silver-haired brother Fukuda showed a smirk on his face, dragged the little sea otter to a corner, and entered the instigator mode with a voice that only the two of them could hear. Teacher Hiramaru, do you know? A-chan once told me something. For Yuri-chan, even if the opponent this time is Lord of Phoenix Ingamai, I will kill the gods. After a brief conversation with the little sea otter, the little sea otter suddenly entered a state of passionate preparation and made such a second-year declaration. Not to mention the several stunned cartoonists, even the silver-haired brother Fukuda, the initiator, was stunned. As if sensing the puzzled looks of his companions, the silver-haired young man coughed lightly, looked at the little sea otter in a frenzy, and explained to everyone in a low voice, I just relayed what that guy Cheng said to Mr. Hiramaru without missing a word. According to Cheng, these words come from. Is it on the taming manual of little sea otters? Revised, as the former neighbor of Makoto Takahashi, the two who often came to eat at home had seen this weapon comparable to the little notebook of the god of death. As long as I win, God will help me, Yuri-chan, The little sea otter was completely in a strange fantasy without caring about what everyone was talking about. Everyone looked at the little sea otter with sympathy and shook their heads helplessly. Even the silver-haired young man felt that he seemed to have chosen the wrong teammate this time. But before everyone could be surprised, Nazuma Eiji, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. I'll join this time too. But I'll choose to appear at the last minute. Nizuma Ag showed an expectant look on his face, but a hint of heat flashed in his eyes. Teacher Howin's new manga is already quite interesting, then the end of the yokai era will definitely be even more interesting. And Fukuda-kun, Yojiro may not have told you, Teacher Howin plans to finish the 3 yokai comics at the same time. What? Finish at the same time? After hearing this news, the silver-haired guy showed a broken smile on his face. Yojiro, that guy, actually concealed such important information. He is really courageous. So the manga everyone is facing this time is not just Natsume's Book of Friends, but the yokai era constructed by 3 yokai comics, ignoring the silver-haired guy who fell into the collapse mode. Nizuma Ag, who became the new leader, kindly opened the hidden plot and prepared to brush the yokai era constructed by Howin Kuma copy with everyone. "Oh, you are the king of Black Flame, have you noticed?" a voice came faintly. At some point, Takahashi Makoto and Sebastian stood in front of everyone. "So this time, let's fight to our heart's content." "Hey, hey, hey, big sister, what are you doing? Let me go." "Sorry, sir, our store is closing." The waiter dragged Takahashi Makoto out of the store without any hesitation. "Ah, is this the characteristic of the legendary title White Cyclops? It seems that buying coffee with the young master is really quite interesting." Sebastian, holding a bunch of items in his hands, squinted his eyes and smiled as he watched Takahashi Makoto being dragged out of the coffee shop. He bowed to the cartoonists on the side of the cartoonists. "Well, sorry to bother you, everyone. Although it's a little late, I'll still update one chapter. Welcome Niankao Sanzan to this book, meow ha ha ha. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 239. After the conclusion of Slippery Ghost, a manga artist named Phoenix Institute Jishin started a new manga, Natsume's Book of Friends, which also talks about monsters and humans. Among the new comics, the one that surprised comic fans the most is naturally the chubby cat teacher. Not to mention that the cat has always been a bit exaggeratedly fat, but those distinctive eyes make the image of teacher cat deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Like several cartoonists on the cartoonist side, when Mr. Cat appeared on the stage, many readers had their heads covered with black lines and put their hands on their foreheads, because the look of Mr. Cat was not that of a certain cartoonist at the concert. A fashionable dress to lead the night parade of 100 demons. Many people also had a sudden realization when they saw this comic. It turned out that the cartoonist Phoenix Inferno Jujhen had already silently prepared for his next comic in this way as early as that night. A GG. However, the new manga Natsume only goes so far. Because of the simple daily plot, readers who are used to monster comics are a little disappointed. After all, in this kind of comic, there are no bloody battle scenes, no pursuit of the highest ideal, and no enemies that have to be killed. In the first chapter of the comic, there is only the tragic childhood of the male protagonist Natsume, and another the cute cat teacher appears, and even the theme of the comic itself and the setting of the Friends account are explained clearly in just a few words. Although comics of this style have not appeared in Shonen Jump for a long time, readers were still looking forward to it at the beginning. After all, human beings are always curious about novel things. However, as time goes by, once curiosity is exhausted, readers will lose interest in comics. So when Yoshida looked at the score sheet of Natsume, he had an embarrassed expression on his face. Although Takahashi Makoto has said it many times before, this comic is the final chapter of the yokai era, the highlight of the yokai era, and the yokai era, but looking at the current results, Yoshida suddenly began to doubt whether he had been after being exposed to Takahashi Makoto's secret hypnosis technique. He actually believed in Takahashi Makoto so easily. He believed in that crazy cartoonist with numerous criminal records, Phoenix Academy murderous man. Although you promised repeatedly before, the result is like this. Yoshida, with a gloomy face, sat opposite Takahashi Makoto, complaining to Takahashi Makoto with some hatred. Chen, I told you before that comics with a style like Natsume are actually not suitable for serialization in Shonen Jump. Well, I know. Makoto Takahashi looked completely indifferent, which made Yoshida a little stunned and didn't react for a moment. You know, you knew there would be such a result, so why did you choose? Looking at Makoto Takahashi still drawing comics, Yoshida was a little surprised. Hey, Chen, although I know you don't care about these results, but... My beloved cat, you are so superficial. Now you are just laying out the plan for the end, can't you see this kind of thing? Makoto Takahashi stopped painting helplessly and turned to look at Yoshida in confusion. Even the King of Black Flame has noticed it, but you, as the editor, didn't notice it? Don't compare ordinary people like us to monsters like you, Yoshida roared dissatisfied, grabbed the comic manuscript on the table, and kept banging the seat. Let's not mention Eiji Naizuma's ability to predict comics, Chen. That monster-like physical strength and abnormal human thoughts, is this kind of weird personality the so-called genius? I am a crazy cartoonist, Phoenix Academy fierce. I want to convey my thoughts, I want to convey my will, I want to develop a congregation of believers, I want to become a god in the new world, and I want to carry out massive brainwashing through comics. Of course, work is a natural choice, because Steins Gate has already decided everything. Makoto Takahashi closed his eyes, the expression on his face became quite pious, but his tone of voice was a little weird. However, this does not mean that now, I will forget the harm caused to the witch by those ignorant humans before. So now, I don't care about those things. Now I am discussing the content of comics with you as an editor. Yoshida was going crazy. Faced with Takahashi Makoto's petty revenge, he expressed that he could not understand it at all. Even if you have resentment in your heart, you shouldn't use this method to retaliate, right? If you choose this method, you will kill the enemy by 1000 and harm yourself by 800. My beloved cat, rest assured. This is just the beginning. Makoto Takahashi opened his right eye, with a smile that made Yoshida shudder. When the plan is fully launched, I can guarantee that all humans in the world everyone will be immersed in sadness. The online media is full of hatred and curses against the Phoenix Academy. The supreme joy, just thinking about it makes me look forward to it. Speaking of which, Aiken, I've heard you say this many times. What exactly do you think? Ignoring Takahashi Makoto's words, Yoshida was really curious. Ever since Takahashi Makoto and Rina's relationship was announced, Takahashi Makoto has emphasized many times that he will retaliate against all mankind, but looking at Takahashi Makoto with everything I do now, let alone revenge, it's already good to be able to stabilize my position as a popular cartoonist. For example, after the new series Natsume was launched, the comics received a mediocre response. Judging from the feedback from readers, it is indeed not as good as the previous comics by Makoto Takahashi. Many people have even begun to worry and ridicule Makoto Takahashi for running out of ideas. My beloved cat, with your wisdom, it is difficult to explain it to you. Makoto Takahashi entered the mocking mode and looked at Yoshida with disdain. So what you have to do next is to wait patiently and witness the end of the monster era, that's all. Hey, your thoughts are not something that mortals like me can understand. I agree with this. Only the Chuyunibu can understand Chuyunibu. Yoshida said that he is no longer a Chuyunibu. But Makoto, I want to remind you that if the comics don't perform well, they will be cut off. Although I don't know what your plans are, once the comics are cut off, those plans you made before will not be realized in the future. Humph. Of course I know that. Takahashi Makoto took out the comic manuscript from the drawer and handed it to Yoshida. This is the task item you need this time, Tisk. Don't dawdle like this, accept it quickly. I have to save the progress, otherwise it will be a tragedy if the power goes out or crashes later. Makoto, eh. Mr. Yoshida is here too. Rina, wearing an apron, walked out of the kitchen, tilted her head and looked at the two people who were talking, with a friendly smile on her face. It just so happens that Rina just finished dinner, and Mr. Yoshida also. Ahem, I have to go back to work overtime. Yoshida's soul and body have a very deep memory of Rina's cooking skills, so when faced with the side quest Rina's cooking experience, he immediately chose to cancel it, and at the same time gave Takahashi Makoto a sympathetic look. My cat, don't be so afraid. Under the guidance of my Hoenorunkuma, Rina's cooking level during this period, is already able to take the exam for a top-grade chef. Grabbing Yoshida who was trying to escape, Takahashi Makoto showed an extremely expectant smile on his face. This is a rare opportunity, my Hoenorunkuma will make an exception once, let you experience for yourself the progress of a disciple trained by a top-grade chef during this period. But Yoshida wanted to refuse, very eager to refuse. However, he was completely suppressed by Takahashi Makoto in terms of force, and the hidden side quest was forcibly opened. Of course, as an equivalent exchange, my cat, as long as you stay, I will tell you some information about the monster era. Takahashi Makoto smiled with narrowed eyes, and after he finished speaking, he saw the tangled expression on Yoshida's face, and continued to add, well, my cat, choose. Do you choose to maintain your professional ethics as an editor and stay, or choose to give up the dignity of your profession and leave in a mess with broken arms and legs? Stay or leave, this is a question, I don't know. Is there any other choice? Seeing the dangerous light flashing in Takahashi Makoto's eyes, Yoshida compromised without any moral integrity. After all, although he felt that Takahashi Makoto was just scaring people about missing arms and legs, Yoshida didn't dare to gamble, because Takahashi Makoto's values were different from those of normal humans. A wise choice. Seeing Yoshida's lingering fear, Takahashi Makoto put on a kind smile, my beloved cat, you can completely understand this trial as the price of wanting to know the truth. After all, equivalent exchange, is the truth chosen by Steins Gate. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 240. Due to various reasons, Yoshida stayed at Makoto Takahashi's house and completed Rina's cooking test. Although at the beginning, Yoshida was determined to die, and even made a special call to buy a high-cost insurance on the pretext of going to the bathroom, but after truly tasting Rina's upgraded cooking skills, Yoshida entered a state of astonishment. Comments such as "it's so surprising" and "it's unbelievable" kept popping up from Yoshida's mouth. Although he was quite unhappy with such comments, Makoto Takahashi was impressed by how Yoshida performed it while stuffing it into his mouth. Food, talking skill, obviously more curious, so Yoshida was not held too accountable for his impoliteness. After the meal, Yoshida was not in a hurry to leave, because Takahashi Makoto had said before that he would continue to talk about comics. The thing that concerned Yoshida the most was of course the so-called plan from Takahashi Makoto. Hey, Chen, I didn't expect. Rina's bulging belly looked like she was pregnant, so Yoshida naturally noticed it. Looking at Makoto Takahashi with a serious look on his face, Yoshida couldn't help but extend his thumb, with a very lewd smile on his face. Is this the legendary one-shot into the soul? Hey! My beloved cat, do you need to clean up your dirty brain? Makoto Takahashi curled his lips in dissatisfaction, squinting his right eye and staring at Yoshida. That's just to make you lose the witch with magical power has changed her profession. I specially rushed back to the demon world to store the demon seed that can provide infinite magic power. If you also want it, go back to the abandoned barrier. There will be kind people who will provide it to you for free. Abandoned. He stopped mid-sentence. Yoshida seemed to have recalled something, and looked at Makoto Takahashi with a black line on his face. His tone was full of resentment. "I'm not a gay, and I don't plan to take this road. But speaking of this matter, Chang, do you dare to talk to me about your secret move?" There is a reason for Yashida's resentful look. After Takahashi Makoto changed the so-called barrier, he did not notify Yashida immediately. As for Yashida, although he had heard from Makoto Takahashi that he planned to change the barrier or something, however, Yashida said that he did not expect Takahashi Makoto's strong execution ability to complete the barrier change in half a day. So after learning that Natsume passed the serialization meeting, Yashida rushed to Takahashi Makoto's house excitedly, ready to tell Takahashi Makoto the good news. As a result, it was not Takahashi Makoto who opened the door, but a familiar-looking man. Forget it, the problem is that after opening the door, before the astonished Yashida could ask a question, the man in front of him was hugged by another man, and the two of them acted out a show of erotic love in front of Yashida. Diamond Suit learned to play. Yashida later learned that Takahashi Makoto's former residence had become a temporary filming location for the philosophy movie, and also a secret residence for a pair of good friends. As for Makoto Takahashi's current residence, Yashida finally found out from someone after calling Makoto Takahashi to quickly get the information. Regarding this matter, Yashida has deep resentment. Not only did Takahashi Makoto change his address without notifying him, but also the previous philosophical performance of a certain two people, which had an impact comparable to a spiritual attack, made Yashida depressed and entangled for a long time. Although Yashida expressed great anger about this matter, his professional ethics as an editor still made Yashida endure it, because with a smile on his face, Makoto Takahashi asked Yashida to choose whether to continue to pursue the issue of barrier replacement or discuss the manga. Question: is this still a choice? Yashida decisively abandoned his moral integrity and flattered Takahashi Makoto to flatter him. I won't tell you the specific content for now, but let's read the new chapter of Natsume first. Makoto Takahashi handed the manga manuscript he had prepared before to Yashida, looked up at the sky with expectation, and lowered his head. He whispered softly, "What about the so-called ghost mode? It really means that you must resolutely implement the will of love and healing." It would actually unfold like this. After reading the second episode of Natsume, Yashida had a look of surprise on his face, but in the blink of an eye, the look of surprise on Yashida's face was replaced by melancholy. But if the content of every episode is like this. In the second episode of Natsume, although Nico-sensei transformed and showed strong fighting power, there was not the hearty battle scene that Yashida had expected before. All that was there was that Nico-sensei subdued a monster. Natsume took the opportunity. He returned Hizugaki's name on his friend's account to the one-eyed monster who had been chasing him. Of course, when Natsume returned her name, she also saw Raiko's past. In the past, Raiko, like Natsume, was ostracized by humans because of her ability to see monsters. The past of Raiko's acquaintance with the monster Hizugaki, and how Raiko regained the monsters. Although Natsume is the male protagonist of the manga, Raiko's appearance in the manga is not very high. Nearly half of the second episode is actually about Raiko's story. Although there are huge differences in species between lonely people and lonely monsters, their lonely hearts are the same. Ever since the monster Hizugaki became Raiko's partner, he has been waiting for Raiko's call, but Raiko forgot about it. After a long wait, Hishigaki's expectation turned into resentment, so he began to want his name back. No, it was not so much that he wanted his name back, but rather that because Hishigaki fell into loneliness again, he wanted to take his name back. Asking for my name back is just an excuse. I just want to get rid of that feeling of loneliness again, nothing more. Although there were no battle scenes, Yashida was satisfied with the ordinary daily plot. Different from the style of the previous three monster comics, although the content of the story of Natsume is relatively similar to the current Ushi and Tora, the method and style shown in the comic are different from Ushi and Tora. Same. The recent chapters of Chow and Tiger do not tell the main plot of the battle with the white-faced man. They only tell the story of Xiao Chao and Ahu encountering and fighting various monsters. Although in the end Xiao Chao relied on the sharp artifact beast spear in his hand. And with the help of the captive monster Ahu, things can be solved every time. However, the rough style of the Tide and Tiger comic cannot perfectly show such delicate emotions. Natsum does a better job at this point. The story of the comic is not complicated. There is only a story about a lonely big boy who encounters various monsters because of his grandmother's relics. There are no fierce battles or sharp conflicts in the comic. The conflict and confrontation simply tells the story of the monster wanting his name back, and Natsum returning the monster's name. Although he has not read the following content, Yoshida has confirmed that the next content of Natsum will be serialized in the form of unit stories. Every monster whose name is recorded by Raiko will have a story, and the name will be returned through Natsum. From time to time, Raiko's past with these monsters is revealed, which may be joyful or sad. Counting the current Natsum, it can already be the fourth yokai manga created by Takahashi Makoto. The first 3 comics were better, but the last newly serialized manga made Yoshida quite worried. The first 3 monster comics all have their own main plots, but the last one, Natsum, has none at all. Natsum learns about the past of the monsters and her grandmother by returning the names of the monsters in her friend's account. For a comic with a style like Natsum to achieve good results, it must have quite outstanding content. For ordinary cartoonists, generally speaking, as long as you think about it carefully, you can naturally do it. For example, the recent manga PCP by Ajuma Menha has been able to gain a lot of popularity because the unit plot is quite brilliant, but now there are still 3 yokai series serialized at the same time. Makoto Takahashi of comics, does he have this time? Although Takahashi Makoto has not revealed his plans yet, after reading the second episode of Natsum, Yoshida has begun to worry about Takahashi Makoto's future.